Hey everyone, thanks for joining this second interview I have. I have a special guest, Ray Lamata. We used to work together back in the day. We kind of have very different credit card strategies. So hoping to kind of dive in and learn more about what he's been doing, what he's going to be doing in terms of credit cards, free trips, and travel. I'm Matthew Dong, the host, part of Woohoo Group, and we're just interviewing different people's credit card strategies because we believe everyone's situation is different, and it's not always just get X card to get to Y trip. So, less about me, more about Ray. Welcome. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Matt. I'm Ray. I'm currently a law student in Philadelphia, but before that, worked with Matt for a bunch of years and been using credit cards for a long time. So happy to talk about them and if anyone learns something from that, that's awesome.
Great. Let's dive into something exciting before we get to your credit card history.
But
Like, what's a fun trip that you recently gone went on?
yeah, best trip recently, I was in Peru in January. So I took a winter break vacation down there with my uncle. Um, It was awesome. We stayed at the very nice Hilton in Lima, booked the whole thing with Hilton Points, had a beautiful rooftop bar, rooftop pool, or spent every night sitting out and watching the sunset.
Yeah.
You know, you've probably imagined what a Hilton is like. It's like any other high-end hotel. As a Hilton Diamond member, which is something I'm very proud of, always get a very nice greeting when I walk in the hotel. People recognize me as a Diamond member. I get a free upgrade always to the executive lounge if it's I always try to stay in a Hilton that has the executive lounge for this reason. So we get a free upgrade to the executive level. So you get a bigger room, bigger suite, um, free access to the executive lounge, which is going to include breakfast. It's going to include appetizers, hors d'oeuvres, drinks during the day. So um, those are some of the great benefits that I've been enjoying.
Yeah, that sounds very nice. You almost don't want to leave the hotel.
We almost never did.
And just for our viewers, like how much would that have cost in cash if you know, and then how many points did you use?
Uh, let's see. That probably would have been about once you throw in the upgrade to the executive lounge, probably 2,100, $2,500 for the stay. I paid for it in about uh 200,000 points. Yeah, then throw on, I mean, the amount of food and drink that we had at the hotel for free, like that, probably another $2,000 right there. So
Uh,
it made the annual fee worth it.
Great. Now we'll get to the background. How did you first get into the credit card game? What was it, and yeah, what brought you along?
Yeah, so my first card, I looked it up today, was 2012. I got the Bank of America rewards card. Actually, very basic card. It's like 3% gas, 2% restaurants, 1% everything. Um, and I just felt like I needed a credit card at that point. So, but I still use it for gas because 3% gas is still pretty good. So, been held on to it since then. And in the interim, I've had, I don't know, up to like 9 credit cards at this point. So I've always been looking out for different cards I can get that are going to help me at some point in my life. That's how it started.
Great. All right. Now let's move to the exciting topic of today. It's the Hilton Aspire card by American Express. So we are currently recording this in March 2024. A lot of the benefits, or maybe some of the benefits, have changed since even last year. But we are going to first talk about kind of how you use this card, why you got this card back in the day, and then later on we'll talk about the changes. But yeah, how did you first hear about the Hilton card? Why Hilton?
Yeah, so it made sense for me at the time, and sort of the way I've approached getting a lot of credit cards is I am a creature of habit. I do a lot of things the same way every time and like to be loyal to the same vendors. So that's why I have a JetBlue card. I was flying JetBlue a lot. I have an Amtrak card now because I take Amtrak every weekend. But with Hilton, when we were working at Gartner together, Hilton was our Gartner preferred brand. So we were staying there whenever we traveled. And from there, it was pretty easy for any personal trips in my life to say, okay, if I'm already staying at Hilton's, then when I'm traveling on my own, I can stay at a DoubleTree, I can stay at a Hampton Inn. The brand is huge, I can stay wherever, and so I can always stay there. And so it made sense to try to get a card that both was going to earn me the most points in the stays I was already doing, but I was also really interested in getting the extra status on those stays because for at least one of those Gartner trips, when we went into the booking system, I accidentally clicked on the like executive status level when I booked, and no one said anything. So I went and I stayed in the executive lounge, and I had a great time. And
And you were hooked. You didn't want to go back.
absolutely not. And so whenever that's available, I was like, how do I always get to do that? So I looked up the Hilton credit cards, and they had this more premium one, the Hilton Aspire, which gives me permanent diamond status, and that's pretty cool. It gets me a lot of perks. The other big benefit at the time, we can talk about this change, is it also got me the priority pass, which I saw everyone else was getting and really wanted. And so the combination of those benefits made it easily worth it. And I can talk about sort
Yeah.
of how the points work.
Break that down for me. The annual fee that you're paying each year, is it really worth it as you're getting all these benefits? It sounds like you did improve, but every single year?
Absolutely. So I don't know. The first year that I got it, maybe it didn't because I got it in September of 2020, I think. So I,
Yeah.
well, actually, I was doing more traveling at that point than a lot of other people, so I guess it was still worth it. But the annual fee was when I started 495 a year, and I believe it's now gone up to 595. But with that, the benefits are almost immediately worth it. So at the time, Priority Pass was something that I was able to use a lot. I still, until very recently, have. But the benefits, from the card that still exists today, one is I'm getting a free night certificate every single year, which, if you're booking in the Maldives, which I've not done yet, that's a very, very expensive hotel, as you know. But even if you're booking like a last minute weekend trip in New York City in the summer, like a Hampton Inn might be $400 a night. So you can earn that money back almost immediately.
Yeah, sorry to
Um,
pause you there to give some context. In other
yeah.
hotel brands, for Hyatt, for example, you're only allowed certain categories, and it's only if there's award availability. So it's very restrictive. Marriott is similar to Hilton, but there's a cap. Usually it's a free certificate up to X amount of points, and you can top it over a little bit, up to 15K. But again, there's some restrictions. Hilton, on the other hand, it's totally unrestricted. It's just
Yep,
literally a free night.
exactly. And it used to just be a free weekend night, which was fine for me. I travel on the weekends. Um, but they see that during the pandemic, they sort of relaxed that restriction, and I don't think it's ever come back, which has been great. The only caveat is they do expire, so you can't stack them up. But I'm going to use one night at a hotel every year. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
Um, so the other benefits, so on the point side, um, the top line number is like for a Hilton stay, you're getting like 7 times points, and then there's bonuses for being a diamond member. So when I actually pay for a Hilton hotel, I end up getting like 14x points on that purchase, which is great. And then when I'm booking a hotel, the huge benefit for the Hilton card that has been better for me now that I've stayed on longer vacations, that I'm engaged, I'm not just like going on one weekend trips, is when I'm booking 4 nights with points, I'm getting the fifth night free. So automatically you're getting a 20-25% bump in how much those points are being valued. So like for this Peru trip, I stayed 8 nights, I think. I booked 6 nights, got a seventh night free, and then used a free night certificate. And so I was actually only paying for 6 nights of points, and so a huge bonus there.
Awesome.
And then yeah, the free, like as I mentioned, the free upgrade to the executive lounge is great. The other key one is the free breakfast at Hilton properties. If you're at a Hilton, the breakfast might be $30. But with this card, it's free. Now, it's the one thing that they've changed. This is actually even before the most recent changes, which I'm not a fan of. Domestically, they've changed that system to be a dining credit rather than a free breakfast, which sometimes is nice. So at a Hilton, it'll vary based on the level of the hotel. So at a Hilton, you might get a $25 dining credit per day per person. And the flexibility is what they pitched it as, is you can use that for breakfast, you can use that at the bar, you can use it for dinner, like whatever you want. And that's sometimes nice.
Yeah.
But if you're actually the sort of person who eats breakfast at the hotel every day, you might actually not get the same value. Now, if you're traveling internationally, you're always getting the free breakfast. And in my experience, the international breakfasts at Hilton hotels are absolutely unparalleled. So, whenever I'm traveling abroad, that part is awesome.
Cool. And just to make sure we capture all the details, is it just breakfast for you, or is it your whole however many guests, or is there a limit?
Yeah, so I've never traveled with more than two people, so I don't know if based on how many people you have, if there's ever a limit, but it is always a credit in domestically, it's a credit for you and for the other person separately per day. And my fiance doesn't really eat breakfast, so I'll go and just eat breakfast for two and use her credit for myself, so that's fine. And internationally, sort of the access goes through for everyone. So my uncle, he just showed up with me, and we all got the free stuff.
Cool. All right, so that's the Hilton Aspire card by American Express.
Yep.
There are other Hilton cards. Why didn't you choose those ones?
Um, yeah, so the main one is I really wanted the diamond status. So there's two other levels. There's like a free Hilton card, which I'm not even going to bother explaining because it's not that great. Then there's the Hilton Surpass, which I believe is a $99 annual fee and gets you Hilton Gold status, which is just not as good. It's like we will upgrade you maybe. And I think some of the points multipliers aren't the same. The free night certificate is only coming with the Aspire card, and I'm not sure if you get the fifth night free with the 4 night booking on the.
I think you do, but I can double check.
You might, but really, it's that free night certificate is like, why am I going to lose out on, $200-300 a year?
Yeah.
And then at the time the priority pass, but that is no longer a thing.
Yeah.
There are a couple of other benefits that I will mention with the Aspire, which were other reasons why I chose it over the Surpass. Is there was also a resort credit, so money you're getting just for booking at a Hilton resort property, which a lot of Hilton resorts are not actually resorts. It's just a DoubleTree that they marked as a resort. You're still going to get the credit for doing that. And then there still is a flight credit, so you're getting $250 a year if you're booking flights with your Hilton card.
Yeah, so you're really making that $495 now, $595 money back.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't think there's ever been a year, maybe 2020, where I didn't get a lot more than the $500 value. And I mean, this year I've gotten thousands of dollars of value out of it. It's great.
Great. Yeah, let's move on to this year. So there were some big changes that came to all the Hilton cards. What were they? What's the good? What's the bad? What's the ugly?
Yeah, so the bad was, so I believe for my card they upped the annual fee by $100, which I was kind of expecting. Everything's been inflated, so I was kind of surprised it hadn't gone up in the past. The big change is cutting priority pass was, I mean, for me, that was a huge reason to have the card, and is something I use every single time that I fly, and I'm getting a lot of value out of it. I'm getting a lot of free drinks, a lot of free food, and that's gone. So that cuts the value out of the card a lot. And I can't use it anymore, which is too bad. For me, it's been okay because my fiance has a Chase Sapphire, so whenever we travel together, I just hop on hers now. But in the future, I will probably be looking for some way to get that access back for when I'm traveling on my own.
Got it. Were there any other big changes besides the annual fee and the priority pass?
Yeah, the other changes is they changed the way they give out some of the benefits and the credits. So it was smart on their part. I understand why they did it. So for an example is the flight credit. It used to be I got a $250 flight credit. And the way it works was at the beginning of the year, I had to indicate which airline I wanted to use it for. And so I might pick American Airlines, and during that year, any expense with them up to $250 get credited back. Now they've eliminated the airline restriction, so you don't have to think about it ahead of time. That's nice, but now it's a $50 credit every quarter.
Hmm.
So it's more flexible, and if you book a lot of flights, it's not a huge problem. Right now I'm in law school, so I don't travel as much and I don't fly as much. So I'm not really booking 4 flights a year, so there's going to be quarters where I just don't use it.
Yeah.
And that was the same like with their resort credit. They went up. It used to be a $250 credit. It's now a $400 credit, but it's $200 each half, which is just, it's a lot to keep track of if you want to maximize everything.
Ray, if someone's looking at getting a Hilton card, um, what would you say to them? What's some good advice? What are some myths that they need to get straight first? What are some reasons not to get the card?
Yeah, so the reasons to get the card are I really love Hilton's network of hotels outside the United States. And if you're planning vacations where you're going to be staying in pretty, normal tourist destinations abroad, and especially if you're planning to do stays that are long term, not long term in the sense of like months, but if you want to stay in one city for a week, Hilton card is awesome because you get to use that book 4 nights, get the fifth night free, and it's a huge way to maximize your credit. And then the benefits of being a diamond member really come out when you're staying at a Hilton brand property, versus or like a flagship Hilton versus DoubleTree versus Hampton Inn.
Mhm.
If you are So sort of the reason I got into the card being that I just could use Hilton's entire portfolio. I don't think that's quite as valuable anymore. And if you have, I don't think there's a great reason anymore to want to stay at a Hampton Inn versus, whatever Marriott or Hyatt's sort of lower end hotels are. Um, but if you know, plan to be doing that kind of flagship stay on a fairly regular basis, I think it's still a great card. I think the diamond benefits are awesome if you frequent Hilton hotels. But you have to keep in mind, like, you're not going to have the flexibility with this card, to be transferring points, to be, to sort of structure your vacation the way you want it. So I think that's a drawback. For me, I'm still going to be getting a pretty good value out of it. So I was debating whether to drop this card or maybe to downgrade it to a lower card, but I think even if I take one vacation a year where I stay for a week at a flagship Hilton, I think I'm still getting the benefit. So I'm happy enough with it.
Yeah, that's a great segue. So one of my questions I really want to ask you, like
Yeah.
I'm in the Chase family. I have American Express cards, transferable points, as you mentioned. A lot of bloggers out there recommend, the Chase Sapphire, which your fiance has and whatnot. Why haven't you gone into that?
I mean, there's two reasons. One is I committed to the Hilton card early, and I was never at a point in my life where I could have like two $500 a year cards.
Hmm.
And I have enough credit cards in my life that sort of every type of big thing I want to do already has a card that I've sort of mentally allocated to it. So I have a Hilton card for hotels. I've got a JetBlue card. I've got an American Airlines card. Like, it's pretty rare that I need to move outside of that network. Um, and so when I'm thinking about, uh, are there times where I would have wanted to have sort of a bank of generic points that I could transfer to different things? I mean, it would be nice, but I don't like have the amount of spending left over that I could earn the right points for that. Going forward, um, that might change. My fiance is now a Chase person, so I'm gonna have to be thinking about how her points are gonna be useful in my life.
Yeah, and
And then what I have
congrats,
to
you're
just
getting married next year.
exactly, yeah. Um, and what I have to decide is, I mean, the things that are missing from my life are that kind of transferability, but also again, a travel executive lounge network, which again, I just love, and I love sitting in the airport and having a drink, and it
Hmm.
feels awesome. And so what I'm trying to figure out is, do I want to get back into like the priority pass network, or do I want to try to become like a Delta Lounge network person or a Centurion Lounge person and see if that kind of premium is the way I want to go, and I don't have an answer to that yet.
Yeah, and I think it really depends, right, where you're going to be. If you're going to be
Yeah,
in Philly, if you go to a different city, like down here in the DC area, we don't have any Centurion lounges, so
right. Not yet.
not yet. So is there a reason to get the Amex Platinum versus? I was just talking with Nee in my last interview. She flies out of Seattle a lot. Used to fly to Philly, which both have Centurion lounges. The Capital One Lounge network's coming up. The Chase
Yep.
Sapphire lounges are popping up. So a lot
Yep.
of good competition, I think, that helps us consumers kind of pick and choose what we really want.
Oh yeah, it's awesome. Perfect.
Cool. We're almost at time. Anything else you want to share just in terms of advice for people looking at credit cards? We've gone over before just like being safe, being responsible, but in terms of someone looking for the next card and looking for the next trip, even any words of advice?
Yeah, my advice, and it's uh maybe different than the advice that you give me sometimes. But I don't think, not entirely different in spirit is, what's worked for me is I have my life and I live my life, and I look for ways that a credit card is going to fit in with how I'm already doing things and is not going to take up, extra energy. What I worry about sometimes with credit cards is like if you are spending tons of time thinking about, what card am I going to get? Like, how am I going to tweak it in this particular way to earn this particular thing? Like, is the value you got actually better than, if you had just spent that time, working a job and making money? Um, Not to say that the two things are mutually exclusive, and you've proven me wrong on so many occasions because I have never had, the ability to take like free cruises or um, beautiful trips to the Maldives. I haven't like gotten myself to that level yet. But as much as possible, where you see a card being able to fit into what you're already doing, I think that's really helpful.
Yeah. No, for sure. That lifestyle creep is very important. Like, and people do it all the time, right? When you get a raise or a new job with a higher salary, you get the new car, you buy more furniture and things like that. So even this, it's the same thing with credit cards, and that's why I try to personalize recommendations because of exactly what you said. Like, the credit card should fit into your life, not the other way around.
Yeah. And I think the other piece is just to know who you are and know what it is that you want, because like I know you take all these like great first class trips, and for me like it looks really great. What I love a first class hotel experience because that's like something I can do for like 18 hours of my 24-hour day on my trip.
Yeah.
um Whereas like I don't know, I like flying economy. I'm a small person, I don't need the space, and like if I even if I'm booking that with points, like if it's a third of the points, like great, now I can book 3 trips instead of one. And very different if you're traveling as a couple and want specific things. But for me, I'm like, I just want to go to the place, and the flight, I'm comfortable pretty much going there in a shoebox. Um, but so that's why I focus on the hotel stay, and I'm like, that's where I really want to upgrade. So just know exactly what it is that you want to get out of your experience.
Yeah, no, I like that, and yeah, even I mean, taking the first class flights are great, but like the one I took to Athens is only 9 hours versus uh the Maldives stay was 5 days. So
Yeah,
with you on that, and yeah, to each his or her own kind of what
yeah.
they want from the
And Molly and I, we flew first class to Seattle, and like I did really like it. And I was like, it would be awesome to travel like this all the time. We got a
yeah.
Sunday, it was great. But at the end of the day, I got off the plane. I'm like, all right, like I feel about the same. So, you know,
Yeah. All right. One last question. Just
sure.
anything about Hilton that really like, don't like that you haven't mentioned yet?
I'll give one thing that I like and one thing that I don't like. The thing that I really like is they have Hilton Diamond parking spots at pretty much every hotel. And it's like the most trivial thing, but when I pull up to a Hampton Inn at like 2 in the morning and I'm like, okay, I have to get my bag into the car, to pull up to that parking spot that's right next to the entrance is awesome.
Yeah.
Um, the thing I don't like is their hotel network has like these weird gaps where they just don't have hotels. So I've been trying to take a trip to the Caribbean for a while, and I'm thinking, oh, like I'll go use my free night certificates because surely there are some nice Hiltons in like the Virgin Islands, and there just aren't. And they
Hmm.
have so many brands, but they're just like certain geographies where there's nothing. Um, or like I was looking at Cape Town, South Africa,
Uh,
and there's a random DoubleTree in Cape Town, but there's no like flagship Hilton. So I think there are some places where their network is inferior to like Marriott or Hyatt.
boy, that's interesting because I feel like Hyatt has a way lower footprint than Hilton and Marriott. So this
Yeah,
is,
and I don't know. I don't look at them that much. Just sometimes like you see these
yeah.
weird gaps. But it's whatever. Ever
Cool. Well, Ray, thank you for the time. It was just fun chit-chatting and talking about credit cards.
for sure. Happy to talk to you and go woohoo.